Our mom, born Margaret Mary Toohey in a small town in County Clare, Ireland, on September 22nd, 1941, to John and Margaret Mary Toohey. Born as the third of 5 children with her older brothers, Patrick and Sean, and a younger set of twins, Rita and Brian. She came to America as a young girl, and although she loved everything about her new country, her heart always remained with her home in Ireland. She was sent by her family to America for an opportunity at a better life than what she could have achieved in Ireland. She earned a degree in general studies at a university in Manhattan in the 1960s. She used her knowledge from that degree to eventually work her way into a career in editing and proofreading. She loved all things involved with writing, the process, the craft, the art of storytelling, but mostly the structure. I remember when texting and emails first started becoming a thing, I would text or email my mother, and she would send back my text or email proofread with notes on why the second do isn't needed in the sentence, I do that sometimes. With a note that explains how the sentence is properly structured with only one do. With the example of, I do that sometimes. She would explain that although that sentence is grammatically correct and can be used, in the context I was using it, it was incorrect. Oftentimes, the subject of the actual text I sent would not be addressed. I would have to make the corrections and send it back to her, so she would focus on the actual message and less on the grammatical structure of it. Years later, when my family and I moved back to New York, we used to drive my mother from New York to Virginia to visit our sister Christine and her kids. During the long car rides, she would play a game and ask my children, who were around the ages of 7, 5, and 3, if they knew what certain words meant. Long, funny-sounding words that she would have the kids guess what they thought they meant. And of all the drives, and of all the words, my kids to this day, in their late 20s and early 30s, can't hear the word surreptitiously without thinking of their grandmother. They thought at the time it was a funny-sounding word that sounded like syrup. Would put it into goofy sentences like, I surreptitiously ate my syrupy pancakes with lots of syrup. The kids would giggle and laugh at all the silliness of the word and sentence. Oftentimes, when she is mentioned, someone would still work that word into the conversation. A girl from Ireland meets a boy from Brooklyn. Our father, whose family was also immigrants, they immigrated from Holland and the Netherlands. They fell in love, and she became Margaret Mary Verhagen. Together, they had 6 children, 9 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren, and have strengthened our family with 17 acorns, ensuring the continuation of our family tree. In 1983, she met Robert, as she most often referred to him, but mostly known to her kids as Bob. After dating for many years, they too fell in love, and she became Margaret Mary Jager. For the last 40 years, they were inseparable. There very rarely was it Bob without Mom, or Mom without Bob. I can't think of a single week's worth of time that they were separated from each other for all of those years together. She loved his family as if it was her own, and he, the same with her family. You know, relationships are interesting. One day, 2 people hang out together for the first time. It might be for dinner, or drinks, or maybe just a movie, just one time, and they are side by side with each other every day after that. That was Mom and Bob. For 40 years, they were always side by side. Our mother's wit was fast. She was sharp as a whip, and she was very, very funny. She had a wealth of knowledge. She knew a lot about everything. She read everything she could get her hands on. Stacks of books, magazines, Reader's Digest, as well as the tabloids. Lots and lots of tabloids. Having such a range of reading experience, there wasn't a topic, current event, or celebrity gossip news that she wasn't well read up on. Her forte was Trivial Pursuit, and if you ever played that game against her, I already know that you lost. She had a knack for being able to retain information. It was quite incredible. She was always one for idioms. She would often say things that may not have made a great deal of sense to us when she said it, but when you had time to sit and think about it, it was valuable. I remember there'd be times I would come home from school and tell her about some problem that I was having. And she told me what she thought about the situation, and she would end it with, well, this too shall pass. She said this so many times in my young life that it seemed as if she would just say it to end the conversation. One day I was having a teenage meltdown about something, and she hit me with, this too shall pass, and I angrily responded, will it, Mom? Will it really? And what if it doesn't? What if this time, this is how it's going to be forever and ever, and it won't pass? And she said, listen, whatever you are feeling right now, it's gonna pass. It may get better, it may get worse, but it isn't going to stay the same. But you can sit here and sulk in it, and it will surely get worse, or you can learn from it and make so it gets better. Force it to get better. Work on it to get better. It is fully in your control on what comes next. Every crisis before this one has passed. Everything you thought was the end of the world got better because of what you chose. And just like those things, this too shall pass, and you will make things better. To tell you that was a light bulb moment in my life is an understatement. I've used that saying throughout my entire life. I've said it to people around me a million times. I've said it so much that it's my brother-in-law Jonathan's Netflix password. My son, her grandson, has a tattoo of it. Probably because I said it to them a million times in their lives. I have burned it into my children's brains when teaching them how to get past things in their life that they may feel in a moment is insurmountable or impossible. That was one of the rare times that she explained the idiom rather than just saying it. She didn't always break down the advice she would give and what it meant. I'm still trying to find where never accept a ride from a three-legged camel or never trust a duck in a raincoat might fit into my life. I'm sure it will someday be useful. That time just hasn't come yet. The tree of life is an Irish symbol, as the one portrayed on our mother's urn. The Irish believed that the mighty oak trees of Ireland, while having their roots deeply embedded in the soil here on earth, its branches reached high into the heavens, representing the family that had passed before them and bridging both heaven and earth with its mighty trunks, dropping acorns throughout the life of the tree, populating more saplings and mighty oaks, creating a forest from one strong tree. On a trip to Ireland a few years ago with my mother, Bob, and my wife and children, she took the time to explain why the tree of life had such significance and why it was such a symbol of strength, wisdom, and knowledge that she had such a great respect and admiration for. These talks and discussions of Irish culture and legacy will be greatly missed by all who have had the opportunity to spend time in conversation with her. So, like all things in life up until this point, this too shall pass. The sadness, the emptiness, and the pain, it will pass. And those feelings will be replaced with gratefulness, understanding, fond memories, and thanks. Thanks for being our kids' grandmother. Thanks for their kids' great-grandmother. Thank you for being Bob's wife, your sibling's sister, and your parents' daughter. But most of all, thank you for being our mom.